Today, I'm going to share how you can gather your recommendation letters or how you can plan ahead and get your recommenders writing letters of recommendation on your behalf even before you start applying to schools abroad. So if this is your first time here, I want you to subscribe to this channel and hit on the like button and also share this video as well. If you have any thoughts or any comment, you can also put it in the chat box or the comment section and I'll be glad to answer. So in applying for graduate school, you always have to be proactive in gathering or getting your recommendation letters from your prospective recommenders. So I remember during my time when I was applying, I was proactive enough. I started somewhere around 2022, January, and during that time, I reached out to my prospective recommenders, those that I felt could vouch for me, those that I felt could say positive things about me in terms of my academic standings. I reached out to them and told them about my plan that I was going to apply to schools abroad and I'll be starting somewhere around August, and I would love them to be my recommenders. And all these people that I reached out to were willing to recommend me. So now I started gathering my documents and making sure that everything was in place. One thing you have to know is that when you are applying to schools, especially those that are interested in applying to schools in the United States, I use United States a lot in most of my videos because I am a current student at the University of Colorado Boulder pursuing a master's degree in organizational communication. I remember my time when I was applying for graduate school. I applied mostly to universities in the United States. The reasons are best known to me. Maybe some other time I'm going to find time and explain why I chose just the US and not any other country. So one thing that I noticed during my application process was that most of the universities in the US requested or required applicants to actually submit 3 recommendation letters. That is not the same for other countries or other states or other universities. What I'm saying is actually dependent on the kind of university that you are going to attend. So you just have to check the requirement and make sure that you know the number of recommendation that the school is actually asking for. Most of the universities, like I said, in the US request for 3 recommendation letters, and some also request for just 2, and some they don't even request at all depending on the university. But most of them I know request for 3 recommendation letters, and at least some 2 request for just 2, and sometimes some of the schools also will request for 1 or they wouldn't request at all. Mine, I realized that most of the schools, almost every school that I applied to requested for 3, with the exception of one school that requested for only 2. So you have to make sure that you check the requirement and you know how many recommendation letters that these schools will be requesting for, and you always have to plan ahead. And in planning ahead, if a school is requesting for 3, make sure you reach out to 4 or 5 people, because one thing that I noticed is that at times it gets to the time where you want these people to recommend you, and one way or the other you can get rejected from one of them. So if one decides to disappoint you, or if one decides not to recommend you, then you know that you have other options to rely on. But if you focus on just 2 or just 3 and you get a disappointment from one of them, it means that you're going to get another one from somebody who you didn't even inform earlier. Becomes very difficult. If the school is actually requesting for 3 recommenders, make sure you get 4 recommenders ahead. If the school is requesting for 2 recommenders, make sure you get 3 ahead, so that anytime you get disappointed or anytime one of them decides not to recommend you, you can rely or you can fall on the other person. Also, one thing you have to know is that most of the things I say is based on my experiences. So I don't know for Canada or UK, I know it's very different. I know sometimes some of the schools in UK request for recommendation letters, sometimes they don't. Same for Canada. So it depends on the school that you want to attend. You just have to make sure that you are on the department website and you are going through their requirement or their eligibilities, and you always have to check out for the number of recommendations that they have, and you start reaching out to people that you think can vouch for you and talk about your academic standing and how good you were when you were in school. And what I always advise people to do is that some of the schools will specify. So some of them will be like, we want 2 recommenders from academic professionals, or we want 2 recommendations from people that are in academia, and one can be from somebody who is in the corporate world or somebody who is in a business field. So you have to check out for that. Some too might say they just need one from somebody who is in academia or somebody who has been your professor before or who has taught you before, and they need the other 2 from someone who is in the corporate world. So you always have to check, but it is ideal to always get all your recommenders from professors or from people that are in academia who one way or the other taught you, So you always have to check with that. If, let's say, you did a course in accounting and you have a professor who is in the English department or who is in the philosophy department, and you had that rapport with that particular professor, you can also reach out to such people to also recommend you. So it's not always you have to get all your recommendation letters from professors that actually taught you, because at times it's really difficult, especially from Ghana. And also I talked to some people from Nigeria, and I know it's very difficult getting a recommendation letter. So you always have to strategize. My time when I was applying, I remember I had a rapport with an administrator from a university, and I reached out to him and he was willing to recommend me. So you see how I was able to navigate my way through, because I didn't get all my recommendations from my professors because it was really difficult reaching out to them, and also it was really difficult getting a recommendation from them. So I made sure that I had plans in place so that I could get alternatives anytime I faced any challenges or I got disappointed from these professors. And one thing I also did was that I also reached out to people that I knew in the workplace or the corporate world, and they also recommended me. What the schools are interested in is that the person recommending you is using an institutional email. So an email like bankofghana.edu.gh, they like it, blah 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 company.gov.gh, they like it. So those kind of institutional email, they don't want Yahoo, they don't want Gmail, they only want institutional email. So you have to make sure the person recommending you is actually using an institutional email. Also, there is one thing that is not being talked about, and that is you waiving your right to see your recommendation, especially when you are applying to the schools. There is a section where they ask you, after you provide the information or the details about the person who is actually going to recommend you, there's always a box where you can check whether you wish your right to waive the recommendation or you wish your right not to waive the recommendation. So that is something a lot of people make mistakes, and always they go in for, I do not wish my right to waive. It's really bad, because always you have to check the box that you wish that the recommendation should be waived. You don't want to see it, you don't want to have access to it. So I'm going to make next video and I'm going to explain that proper. I'm going to talk about that, and make sure you subscribe to this channel and also expect that video very soon. Thank you. Bye.